Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. And we're going to be talking Georgia Championship Wrestling. Probably one of the, I would say, one of the top professional wrestling companies of all time. Would y'all agree with that, Jack and Rodney?
Oh, yeah, that's where I cut my teeth.
We're not going to talk about certain dates. We're going to really talk about certain wrestlers. And you can't talk about Georgia Championship Wrestling without talking about Ole Anderson. One of the first matches I ever saw that just stands out to me is Ole and Gene Anderson against Mr. Wrestling 1 and 2. Rodney, those matches were tremendous.
Oh, absolutely. Ole and Gene, I think, probably is, in my opinion, the greatest tag team of all time. The way that they gel together and their philosophy, if you will, that's Gordon Soley. Their philosophy is win at all costs, and then that includes sacrificing your own partner to make sure you win. And I think that stood out with Ole and Gene especially.
Well, those matches were so good. It's one of my first memories of professional wrestling is Ole and Gene against Mr. Wrestling 1 and Mr. Wrestling 2, because I just remember as a kid of the mask. Wrestling 2's mask could go out to, it must have like the length of the ring. It was when you pulled that thing, it would pull out from the leather. And I mean when he would start, I mean, Jack, you've seen it, when Wrestling 2 would fight back when somebody messed with his mask, it was epic.
Yeah, it was great. Of course, I never got to see those guys live, Ole and Gene, but I saw Ole and Ivan. That was my introduction to Ole as in a tag team, and then he and Stan Hansen. I thought that with those two partners, I love those. I love those matches that they had. I love the stories, especially with Stan. Where Stan was a baby face and Ole forced him into being his tag partner. It was just great storytelling, great matches. I love Ole. I do.
Well, since you talked about Ivan Koloff, one of the greatest things that was ever done in Georgia Championship Wrestling, Dusty Rhodes being jumped in the parking lot. That was tremendous. And the way they handled it was so great because they didn't really make a big deal out of it. They always said he was jumped in the parking lot by Ole Anderson, Ivan Koloff. That was it. They didn't give no details of it. That's all they said. To me, that was some great television. What did you think, Rodney?
The whole story was watching the video where Dusty comes down the steps and is coming across the Atlanta City Auditorium main floor and collapsing with the police and everybody else and all the people coming around him. And then they put him on the stretcher and carting him out. Yeah. That told the whole story. Just no, you didn't have to say anything else. You just had to watch it. And then when Dusty said, I was jumped in the parking lot by Ole and Ivan Koloff, which set up for the Omni, and the Omni was sold out. There were people sitting on the steps. You probably in a 17,000 seat arena probably had close to 19,000 in that arena. How they jammed them in there. So yeah, it was great.
Well, we also Ole and Ivan, while they were a tag team, also cut Tommy Rich's hair. You remember that, Jack?
I sure do. I remember watching, and I remember being scared seeing about him doing it on TV because he was still doing stuff to Tommy with the scissors in his hand. And I thought, he's going to stab him. And it was great.
Great television, and it drew a lot of money. A lot of people paid to see. And Tommy Rich, I got to give him all the credit in the world. He was so good in this, and he would, even after they cut his hair, he would go home and he would just whack his hair all to pieces. So when he gap it up really good, so when he would go out to stores and stuff, they go, man, they just ripped your hair off, and it could have been 3 weeks later, and it was still.
I remember him coming. I was going to the shows in Columbus at that time, and I remember him coming in that first show after that happened on TV, and it was all gapped up, made that big deal out of it. I mean, they knew how to sell storylines back then, but that was great.
And they would fight over the scissors. during the match, which I always thought. I'm kind of like you. Oh my gosh, they're going to stab each other, but they never did. I don't know how they didn't do it, because they would. Tommy had hit that. Tommy had that unique punch that it was just tremendous.
Yep.
I don't know that anybody else has ever had a punch like Tommy Rich.
No.
He was so good at that. He was so good. Tommy Rich was so good at the time. But that was some of the stuff. And then, if you'll remember, Ole and Ivan also beat up, I believe it was Wahoo McDaniel in the parking lot over the Cadillac. I believe they did beat him up in the parking lot. That's the second person. I don't think it worked as well with Wahoo as it did with Dusty.
Well, the way that they did it with Dusty, it let your imagination run with you. This time you saw it happen, and honestly, on the streets of Atlanta, not sure that was the right thing to do. In Atlanta, in the parking lot of the WTCG studios, not sure that the police department would really appreciate it.
Well, way before Dusty Rhodes, way before Tommy Rich, Ole Anderson and Thunderbolt Patterson was one tremendous feud. The Silver Dollars against the television. I believe it was the television title, right. Wasn't it?
Inside the steel cage.
Just tremendous.
Yeah, and that place was full. He had the 1,000 silver dollars for anybody that could beat him. And so he had that up, and then, of course, Thunderbolt Patterson was Georgia television champion. So it only seemed right that they would come together and have the big match, and they did, and it worked. It was full, and in the end, it was Thunderbolt hitting Ole with the atomic drop, and he won this 1,000 silver dollars and was still the Georgia TV champion. But it was awesome, and it was again that Ole and Thunderbolt's ability to talk into the match. They never really touched each other at that point. Now they had worked prior to that. To that, because Thunderbolt Patterson and Bill Watts were going after the World Tag Team Championship held by Ole and Gene, and that drew a tremendous amount of money with the Andersons against Bill Watts and Thunderbolt.
Well, later on in years, 1985, 86, Ole and Arn Anderson would go against Ricky Morton and Robert Gibbs of the Rock and Roll Express. Man, have y'all saw those matches?
Yeah, they were again. It was fantastic, and again, Ole and Arn just as good as Ole and Gene, I think, as far as a team. They had that timing down just perfectly, doing the sneak tags and still working that arm, just perfect, absolutely perfect.
The tag match they had in the cage at the first Starrcade was unbelievable. I mean, it was everything that a tag match and a cage match at the same time should be. That was that match. I still love to go back and watch that match.
Yeah, those matches. Ricky Morton said some of the best matches that he'd ever had, and he said I had great matches. We had great matches with the Midnight Express. We had great matches with Koloffs. But he said Ole and Arn. He said he even interviewed said I learned so much from Ole Anderson. There is a shoot interview out there where Ricky Morton is actually interviewing Ole Anderson, and if you've not seen it, go watch that, because it is a great interview that Ricky Morton does with Ole Anderson. Ole, as usual, is grumpy, but he's not as grumpy with Ricky Morton on that thing. And Ole Anderson said, when the first time I saw you two guys, I thought, what am I going to do with these two little boys? And he said, and I saw you wrestle, and I saw the people go nuts. And he said, now we're going to make money. That's what Ole Anderson said about the Rock and Roll Express. Okay, folks, if you have enjoyed this video, give us a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And let us know by subscribing to the channel and giving us that big thumbs up. It makes us feel good when we get that big old thumbs up. And so please do so. And go one step further. Hit that notification bell, and that way, every time that we upload a video, you'll be able to see it. All right, Jack, Rodney, thank you so much. And we're going to be talking more about Georgia Championship Wrestling and other videos. And we'll check you out on our next episode on Georgia Championship Wrestling.